Brian, you there? I don't hear you. Brian usually brings it in when we're guest hosting here on the Patriot Trading News Hour. Joe needed to take a day off, and we also are going to be taking off on the Monday coming after the holiday. And Brian is with me, but not hearing him. I don't know.
Sorry, Jason.
Yeah, I can hear.
Here. We didn't communicate the plan. sorry about that. So.
Go ahead, Brian. Go ahead and let's talk about the Patriot Trading News Hour and why we're here today.
That's right. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. That different music probably caught your attention and maybe jolted you up. It's not early morning, but hope everyone had a good week. Good Friday to you, the 2nd of July, 2021. I had to correct myself there before I said June. June is done and gone. Put that in the history books. But thanks for joining us. That's right. We're filling in for Joe today. Boss man taking a few days with his bride, and he'll be back Tuesday, like Jason said. So you're stuck with us. You're stuck with the Colorado tag team. This is Bryan and Jason.
Yeah, we got a couple things we're going to talk about today. We're coming into the weekend, and Bryan and myself, in case you just listened to the Arizona show and maybe haven't caught the few times that we come on. Bryan and I are the guys that answered the call back in 2018. Joe on Groundhog's Day came out and said, "Hey, something's going on in Colorado. I want to get the business there. It was sagging." He's like, "I'd like to get a physical office up and running to see if I can make that thing work over there. And I want someone to buy into the Patriot Trading Group." And he just put it out there for some Colorado guys. And out of the 25 or so, 30 guys that called, Joe picked myself, Jason, and Bryan. And we went on to this huge adventure, which was to sell gold and silver and do a radio show, which we had never. I had sold gold and silver some on the side. Bryan hadn't. And doing a radio show, neither one of us had done. And then as I was working at the radio station, Bryan was part-time, coming in and out of the radio station a couple of days a week. I was here every day, Monday through Friday. The radio station suddenly was on death's door, and since 2018, Bryan, we've been kind of on a little bit of an adventure, running the radio station, fixing the radio station, and this week is no less of an indicator how much of a fight it's been, right?
Boy, that's no kidding. You know what? The visual that always comes back to me when I think about how Joe brought us on and got started is that scene from City Slickers when he just got done helping delivering a calf. Was it Curly? Was that the
yes
Jack Palance character? And he takes he's got slop on his hands and he's lost his watch, and he flings his fingers and says, "This was not in the brochure." And so that's kind of my response to how things have progressed. But largely fueled by all your listeners and obviously Patriot customers. So thank you.
Absolutely. Hey, this is a gold and silver company. The number to call to buy gold and silver, 800-951-0592. That number again, in case you just happen upon this show for the first time, 800-951-0592. You can call it right now. We have a gold special. We'll probably come in on the second, maybe the third segment. We're going to start talking about that. Bryan's got a story or two we're going to be looking at here on the next segment. I'm going to talk a little bit about this inflation that's got everybody talking. And I think Bryan...
What inflation?
Yeah, what inflation? And we're going to talk about all the different ways that you can hide inflation. And when you're the Federal Reserve, a central bank, if you're one of these globalists, elitists, the Illuminati, whatever you want to call these guys that have their finger on the pulse, the buttons of control, the levers of control.
Control freaks.
Yeah. You can do a lot of weird stuff, and you can do a lot of things to change perception. And if you watch your television every day and you're looking at your smartphone every day, and that's how you get all your information, they have you right where they want you. So on this station over here, 1360 KHNC, which you can stream us live over there in Arizona, 1360KHNC.com. Joe covers it most days, but we love KXXT over there in Arizona. We do everything we can to stay on good terms with those guys over there. But we're Colorado, and the radio station we run, you can stream it in over there in Arizona, 1360KHNC.com. Hear our show, which is 3 o'clock Colorado time. Joe's show can be heard there. If you're driving around, you can stream it in there. If you're at your computer, you're at your desk, you can stream it in there. I'm sure 1010 also has a way to stream in. but we have a lot of shows, Brian, right, that talk about just what we're going to talk about, which is what's really going on. And how do they hide all of the emergencies and the lower standard of living in America, which seems to have started in the 60s and just keeps on going one step back, one step back, one step back. And I think we'll cover a little bit of that on the show too today, Brian.
Boy, you're right, Jason. Not only do they hide the real crises, then they concoct and make false ones out of other things. I keep thinking about over the winter months, they talk about the bomb cyclone, all these excuses for things, but hide what's really going on, what we really ought to be paying attention to. That's right.
So, man, I mean, it's been a while. I think it's been a couple of months since we ran Joe's show. We like to have a little fun. We have a little different vibe on our Colorado show. If you're somebody that you like Brian said, you caught off guard with the different music, when we come on, we're gonna change it up a little bit, give you a little bit of the Colorado Front Range News Hour, which is the show we run at 3:00 here, Colorado time. Any of you longtime listeners, you remember a few years ago when he took us on as partners, Glenn Biddle, myself, and Brian. Glenn had this idea of having a little a wind down for Friday and a little fun with a show called Fake News Friday, which in Colorado we've kept developing that show, Brian, and we like to just instead of have the gloom and doom and worry, we kind of laugh at the news on Fridays, don't we, Brian?
Yeah, that's right. Let our hair down a little bit if we had any, and lighten up because it's heavy for sure. So thanks for tuning in this morning. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after this quick commercial break. Patriot Radio News Hour. Your fill-in host Jason and Bryan today. Patriot Radio News Hour on a Fake News Friday. Your fill-in host Jason and Bryan. If you missed the last segment, thanks for joining us. Joe will be back on Tuesday. Just want to put a clarification out there. Yes, we are in Colorado, but no, we don't light up and participate in the marijuana. But based on one of the headlines, it has nothing to do with politics or financial economics. Apparently, marijuana, if you're a fast runner, helps you run faster. The fastest woman in the USA banned from the Olympics for smoking weed. So I don't know, Jason, who'd have thunk?
What was that guy that won all the swimming medals? I should know this guy's name. Phelps? Yeah, Phelps. Wasn't he smoking a bunch of weed some years ago? And
oh, maybe I didn't know that.
But by setting the wrong message to our youth, I guess, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. Just because it's not illegal, it doesn't mean you should do it, right?
Hey, I won gold medal smoking weed, and I ran faster than everybody smoking weed. Boy, as if the treacherous public school system is enough to scare a parent as to what they're learning there. Just turn on your TV and teach them a little bit of what's going on there too, right?
Yeah, indeed. And we were talking about this. I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before on our afternoon Colorado show. The Federal Reserve and central banking being such a huge, if you want to call it a leg on the stool, and I think another one of the multiple legs is the education system has been so changed, and our financial education has just not been what it should have been, at least from the government public schools, which, by the way, are not constitutional. But that's not, pick your thing that's not constitutional. It's not the only one.
I agree completely. So I'm going to move on to let's do a little bit of we're going to do a little bit of gold price. I want to talk a little bit because just like with any business, we have good months and we have slower months. And being in the gold and silver sales, and when the price kind of hangs out there, or a couple of weeks ago, we went from about $1,900, where today gold is up about $10 an ounce. Today, got gold about $1,788 to the ounce. Now, Brian and I on our show, in 2018 and in the beginning of 2019, we kept saying it's the good old days. This is the good old days, and this is the time to buy gold. This is the good old days. We kept saying that because if you look at a gold chart over a long enough period of time, there's these low parts, or like where gold or silver kind of goes down, kind of sits there for a while, and there's like this time frame, a couple of months, maybe even a couple of years, and gold's sitting at this like sort of low spot. Now, for people that don't understand it, they think, well, okay, gold's at $1,788, but hey, 6 months from now it's going to be $600 an ounce, and I'm going to lose everything. They treat it like it's some sort of stock, Brian, like it's some sort of some sort of gamble at the casino, which is what stocks can be, right?
Yeah, you're right, and it can be said sometimes it has those characteristics, but that's definitely not how we advise people, or at least talk about gold and silver. It's insurance, right? Joe says that often. It's wealth insurance. Correct,
and essentially what the spot price is supposed to show is what does it cost to physically pull that stuff out of the ground? What's the next ounce out of the ground going to cost? And that's, it doesn't really reflect that completely. No markets, no spot prices are exactly what the price should be, or what it costs to actually get that ounce. Because by the time you guys out there get the ounce of gold, it's already been minted into a coin or a bar or whatever, and you're buying it, past the COMEX and past the distributors and past us. Everybody takes that little piece down the line, and unless you're a seller or a distributor, or you own a country and you get to set your price, you have to buy it at whatever the price is at the retail end, and it's not going to $600. It's not even going to $1,050. Brian, I don't see how it could ever get back down to what we said the good old days when we first came on, where it was kind of settling around $1,250 was the spot price in 2018 going into 2019. It won't be going back there. It's not going there. When you buy an ounce of gold, around $2,000, $2,100, whatever it's been, we've been having to sell it at. Don't worry. Don't even think about it. You're saving your hard-earned money, your time, because a lot of people are on, they earn an hourly wage. How many dollars per hour do you earn? Or if you're on salary, how many dollars per month is your salary? That's your time. All those hours you pour into whatever it is that you do, that's your time. And money and time is the same thing. And gold is a way of storing your time with, in my mind, no risk at all. There's really no risk at all. I'm sure governments can confiscate and do all kinds of weird stuff. Nothing's 100% in life. But if you want something that's very safe, it's going to be gold and silver, right, Brian?
Well, that's right. We talk about possession. What's the saying about possession is 9/10 of the law? There's something to be said for our smart, satisfied customers and the peace of mind that they get from holding gold and silver. And I don't know what the spread is, what percentage of Patriot customers are also in the stock market and are diversified. But I can bet that they don't spend a whole lot of time tracking gold and silver prices like you would your 401k or any stocks in the market. Just talk about what an incredible insurance policy to hedge against what's the inevitable, right? With the reckless creation of fraudulent reserve notes of dollars, paper dollars.
That's right. Let me give you a couple of numbers then, because on our show, Brian, talking to the Colorado audience, and obviously you Arizona guys, you could always go to 1360khnc.com. You can stream our show if you want to hear our show, but let's just go a little bit more than a year ago. Let's just do silver and gold prices approximately a year ago, because we tell people on our show, listen, if you're going to save money, especially a year or more, the way as wacky as things are now, any cash that you have in the bank or in a box at home under the mattress that you're holding for 6 months or more really should just be in gold and silver. You should be saving. The way I put it is gold and silver really is not investment. A lot of people say invest in gold, and it slips out of us. We say invest in gold and silver, but it's savings. And if it's looked at as savings, then that's a place you put it so that it holds its value. Inflation this year has gotten so out of control that this is more important than any other time to save it in gold and silver. So a year or more, any cash you're going to hold for a year or more, and I'm going to give you some numbers right here, what happened over the last just over a year. This is why you hold it here, because there's been inflation in gold and silver. They monkey around with it all they can. These guys, all these market guys, and all these banks, and all these governments, they try to monkey with it. But there are certain things that are just that an ounce of gold and a cow are always going to be approximately the same, and that's just the way it is. Last year, May 6th, I'll even give the July 2. Today's July 2nd. So let's just do silver prices. May 6th last year, silver was $14.80 an ounce. Today, $26.46 an ounce. It's up today about 35 cents an ounce. July 2nd, actually exactly 1 year ago today, it was sitting at $17.94. It actually spiked up to 17.94. It had gone from May 6th at 14.80, then it was up to 17.10. By July 2nd, it was just hovering below 18, and it kind of swam around there for a few months. But I mean, Brian, let's start with the silver. 14.80 on May 6th, and today 26.46. I think with the kind of inflation we've been seeing, that seems to be keeping up with it. What do you think?
Right. Yeah. The line that comes out of the market pushers that says, well, gold and silver, it doesn't bear any interest. Well, yeah, but notice how there's no discussion about the inflation and how many more dollars it's taking to buy the same goods or services, as time progresses. And I'm looking, Jason, at a gold chart that's showing on July 1st of last year, gold was $17.95. So interesting parallel there with what you said, the silver price.
It bounces around. So gold is $17.88 today. It's in a holding pattern. When Brian brought up that the price is about the same year over year, but you've got to look at these buying opportunities when Joe comes on the air. We come on the air and we tell you this is the good old days. Yes, gold is about the same year over year to this date, but the better date to look at would be March 18th. March 18th, gold was sitting at that nice spot of $14.85 an ounce. At $14.85 an ounce to today's price, and it's gone up, it's gone down. It got up, it got over, right to $2,000 an ounce spot price. Then we're all talking spot price, not the physical buy price. 20% it's up. Gold's up 20% since March of last year, March 18th. Now, yes, at this point in time, gold is kind of sitting kind of the same as it was year over year, but it's because it's sitting in one of those places that Brian and I say, look, good old day price. It's going to sit between the 1750 to 1900 range for a little while. And then whatever cooked up emergency the powers that be decide to throw at us, whether it be a new coronavirus where everyone has to lock down and wear masks and all this nonsense, is it going to be a domestic terrorist event, which suddenly President Biden gets on the air and says, it was a domestic terrorist event. Let's just do something I see as a likely target. The Super Bowl's on February.
Something scary.
Yeah, something scary. February 6th, the Super Bowl. It's going to be in Los Angeles this year. It's like a big deal. I don't watch football anymore, but the Super Bowl is the Super Bowl. It's the biggest event, and Los Angeles is building a new stadium for those two football teams, the Chargers and the Rams. And they can have the Super Bowl there. I don't know if they're actually playing games in that stadium this year, but I know that from what I understand, the Super Bowl's there. Whatever the event is, that has to be fear and control to make people lose freedoms and liberties. It'll be sparked. It'll be on TV, and it'll be everywhere all the time. So let's just say it's not coronavirus. Let's just say the NFL gets to have their football season unmolested. By the way, all these sports with coronavirus having their seasons messed up, the NFL, for the most part, unscathed. Got to give the big guys their season. I think the owners of the NFL might actually have a little bit of influence as to when these events are happening. But just imagine if you wanted to scare everybody worldwide and have markets crashing and cause craziness. February 6th, you have a bunch of masked individuals with automatic firearms, firing guns into the audience of the Super Bowl on February 6th, right? That's a 9/11 type of event. It'd be international. Everybody would be watching it on live television, just like 9/11. And like I say, it doesn't really matter. It could be something like that. It could be something like another coronavirus. But Biden would come on the television and say, "Hey, there's this was domestic terrorism." And by the way, a couple of weeks later after the event, they'd say, "We've been investigating it, and it appears this is domestic terrorism." And your neighbor might be, there's cells all over the country. We don't even know where all these people are. It could be your neighbor. One of these divisive things, right, Brian? And
be afraid. Be very, very afraid.
Correct. And to me, it's going to be a false flag event, just like all these other ones. It's going to, the government's going to have their hands in it in some fashion. And what's going to happen to markets, Brian? What's going to happen? It sure is going to mask the real problems that are in the market right now. The reverse repo market that Joe talks about. The repo market. The there is great problems in the markets today, especially in this country. And if there's problems in America's market, it's problems worldwide. The printing, and this inflation, they'll hide it. And I'm going to show. We're going to talk a few reasons why how they hide it. But Brian, I mean, they have to have an emergency, right? So nobody points the finger at who? The bankers.
That's right, and that alone ought to cause people concern to know what the effects are. But then to add insult to injury by having these other distractionary, whether they're crisis, not letting a good crisis go to waste, or worst case, helping the crisis come about in the first place. Very, very disturbing, that's for sure.
Yeah, 9/11 was not just a bunch of terrorists taking down buildings. We do a 9/11 show every year, right, Brian?
If only that's all it was.
Yeah, if only that's all it was. Hey, we're coming to the halftime break. Stay with us. This is Jason and Brian running the Patriot Trading News Hour. 800-951-0592.
All right, welcome back. Second half of the Patriot Radio News Hour on a Friday, 2nd of July, 2021. Thanks for putting up with us. Thanks for being here. Thank you for being loyal Patriot customers. A couple of side notes. It is I Forgot Day. It's also Made in the USA Day. It's World UFO Day, and as I usually ask, or Jason asks, who comes up with this stuff? I have no idea, but that's a good question, nonetheless.
Wow, yeah, that's. I'm always amazed at what I guess what somebody's supposed to be celebrating based on. I don't know.
Made in the USA is more like a funeral than a day. It seems like.
We're going to talk a little bit about inflation here. We just talked about gold. How gold. March 18 to now is up 20%, 1485 to 1788. That's 20%. Not bad for about 15 months. Silver year over year is from just under 18 to about 2650 is where it's at today. Pretty good spot price move year over year, and we're seeing the prices rise on a lot of stuff. And one of the things that's been catching people's eyes is lumber. Brian, we're going to talk for a minute about how when you're running a Ponzi scheme, which is the Federal Reserve System, and companies and governments all across the world have to use this fake garbage money.
Just ask John Perkins, economic hitman.
That's right. That's right. And we all have to use it, and it's being forced into countries that don't want to use it. Boy, do they have to suffer the consequences. If you want to know who America's enemies have been the last 30 to 40 years, you just look at the news cycle, and it'll tell you Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, North Korea, Libya, Venezuela. Well, those are also the same countries that just don't want to use Federal Reserve notes. Isn't that interesting? That's really how it works. And if you really doubt it, just go look at countries that have central banks in league with the system, the cartel. And Russia has a little central bank that's kind of plays in with our system and then gradually tries to pull itself away. But the favors and the benefits of being in the system is better than being out of the system. There's more countries and individuals worldwide that are benefiting at the government level from this central banking system than are not. So when you hear about Venezuela being the enemy or Libya, I mean, you want to know why they went after Muammar Gaddafi in 2012? Well, that's because he started minting a gold coin called the dinar, and was going to have an African money system, an honest money system based off the sweet crude oil of Libya and the gold dinar. And as soon as he started minting these coins, that's when, there's rebels over there, and suddenly they got these big weapons that popped out of nowhere, and the guy was dead. Well, the guy was killed because he was a threat to the system. That one little country, he figured out in the 80s when he started amassing an army that he thought, hey, I'll just amass a really big army and I'll challenge America. And he figured out really quick that one night in the 1980s, Ronald Reagan sent some F-15s over there and just blew his country up in one night. So he decided, well, how else am I going to fight this system? Well, let's just try economically fighting it. And he did it the honest way. And look what that got him. And not saying that Muammar Gaddafi is a great guy. I'm not going to. That's not what I'm getting at. What I'm getting at is that's their country. Let them do what they want to do. Let's worry about us here in this country. And we can't even do that, Brian, because the financial powers that be have taken control, and we can't even vote somebody in that represents the people anymore.
No, what a concept for a country or a country's leadership to try to do something independent of the controlled systems of the central bankers, the international central bankers, I might add. But how many times has it been said about the big old sin in the banking world, competition?
That's right. So because there isn't a lot of competition, these markets can be, the crazy stuff happens. And when you're running a Ponzi scheme, like I said a few minutes ago, as I was kind of going through this whole thing, you got to do everything you can to make sure that the blame and when pain and suffering comes to these economies, that the blame is pointed somewhere else. We talked about terrorist attacks or more COVID-19, whatever it is, 9/11 things, all that stuff is used to point the finger somewhere else as to why markets have trouble and why suddenly you're paying a massive amount of money for, let's say, lumber. Now, in June, so we're going to use lumber as an example, but this is
not only that, Jason. Lumber, when we've got forests on fire, forests of lumber, of unprocessed lumber on fire.
Correct. But let's focus just on the price, okay? Because we talked about inflation, and the Fed knows that if there's runaway inflation, it's going to make them look really bad. So now they got to kind of play a game of how do we get people to stop looking at inflation? Well, an emergency will work. But if you do an emergency every month, the size of coronavirus or 9/11, yeah, people are going to figure it out. You can't have a 9/11 or a coronavirus every single month. You can stretch them out for a while, but you can't have a massive emergency every month if things are getting really bad, which they are. So what do? You mask it. You change the rules. Numbers. Money is an idea, and ideas can be corrupted and changed. An ounce of gold is a commodity. It's what it is. And I'm going to do our special here in a minute, but let's go with just a couple things. Lumber and how they evaluate inflation. In the 1980s and the 1990s, they had two changes. There was changes from all the way through the 80s how they calculated inflation. Then they changed it in the 90s, and then after the 90s, they changed it again. And they're talking about how inflation right now they're actually admitting like 3% or 3.5%, some of these numbers, which is incredibly high for the Fed's control, that this idea that they can keep it to 2 or 3%. 3.5% is that's almost like a minor emergency for these guys. But they're telling you, just don't worry, it's transitory, it's going away. If you calculate
like a hurricane, it's transitory, like a hurricane passing over you.
Right. Well, in the 1980s, if they calculated the numbers the same way, it'd be 13% inflation. 13% is where it should be if you just calculate it in a different mathematical formula.
When you include things that we foolishly spend our money on, like food and energy, right?
Right. Well, and Brian, look what I did. I showed you that the gold price was $14.85 on March 18th. Now it's about $17.88 today. That's 20%. If you go by the 1980s numbers of calculating inflation, if you want to believe their math, but that math is better than the math they're using now, 13%. 20% gold's up. It goes up and down. 13% seems very similar. And then by the 1990s, they reformulated it. That number right now, the inflation would be 8%, way higher than the 3.5%. These numbers, they mess with them, they tweak them, they do all these little things to fool the public in thinking. Like
cooking meth in a lab. That's the cooked books. It's like they're cooking the numbers in a meth lab.
I'm going to give you another. We're going to hit the break here. I'm going to give you another way with lumber. How they're going to make you think that inflation's going away because, hey, lumber's down 40% in June. Oh, the inflation's going away, ladies and gentlemen.
Next.
I'm going to show you how that is completely bogus. I'll give you the numbers. When we get back, we have a gold special. I'll hit that, and we'll talk about how lumber is massively inflated. Just go try to buy some. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. Patriot Radio News Hour on a Friday. Hope everyone's having a good day so far and survived the week. Thanks for listening to us today. Jason and Bryan filling in for the boss man Joe, away today, back Tuesday. Jason, I think you were just getting ready to talk about today's specials or special.
Yeah, I'm talk about today's special, and then we're going to talk about how they hide inflation. But look, we just said how they hide inflation. 1980s, if they calculated it the way it's happening today, it'd be 13%. And gold from 15 months ago today, it's up 20%. So shave a few months
hold its
off.
value.
Yeah, and there's ups and downs. There's ebbs and flows in the markets, but gold was, on March 18th, $14.85 was the spot. Today, $17.88. And it's a great place to be buying gold. The special we have today is a little bit more than gold. There is a little bit of numismatic to this. But to me, it's always about how many ounces do you own. When I bought gold and it went up the next day or went down the next day, I didn't get too excited about it going up. I didn't get too upset when it went down because I had the ounce of gold in my hand, and I knew by the next year gold was going to go up. And yeah, after the housing debacle about 15 years ago, there was kind of a price. It kind of got squished down. It spiked up to like $1,900 an ounce, and then it came down. Well, there's a reason for that. The reason that gold went up to $1,900, spiked, and then came down and kind of sat there for about 6-7 years. Well, that's because of quantitative easing. They did money printing like they're doing in 2020 and 2021. The difference is the money that they printed, they just gave it to the banks to save these big banks, and the money didn't go anywhere. And so everyone's like, oh, everything's fixed, everyone's saved, everything's good, and people sold off gold, and gold didn't go up because they didn't inflate it. They just gave it to a banking system and paid a bunch of CEOs for their crooked endeavors. They're printing money to try to save this Ponzi scheme and giving it to people, unemployment, cities. They're saving entire states like California and New York are benefited hugely because those states were going under before coronavirus. Now suddenly they're kind of equal to states like Colorado and Arizona and Wyoming. They've solved all the problems by giving everyone money. What we have today for gold, and it's Joe had a sale yesterday. We were just finishing off those $20 Liberties for $20.75. This coin that we're selling today, it's about $150 more per coin, and gold's up about $10 an ounce. This is not for everybody out there, but man, if you can get a St. Gaudens that's in beautiful mint state 64 condition, you're getting a 120-year-old coin plus in mint state. Someone put this aside, and it was not molested, not spent in circulation. It didn't get dinged around and wore down. People didn't rub it with their fingers. It's a piece of art in your hands. It's archived in the plastic holder for NGC or PCGS at mint state 64, and at $22.25, to me, next year when gold's at $3,000 an ounce, or in a couple of years when gold is at $5,000 or $10,000 an ounce, which is where it's going, not because you're going to get rich off of this. This is where inflation is going. Gold was in the $200 range in the early 2000s, and by the time gold spiked in 2011, it kind of had like a 2010, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. It was kind of averaging about $1,500 an ounce in about a 10-year span. Well, in 10 years, this $2,000 gold range where we're selling it, gold's going to be $15,000 in the same, and that's if things are good, and things are not good. You don't print the kind of money that they're printing and think that we're going to have the same percentage rise in gold from 200 to 1,500, 2,000 to 15,000. No, you're going to see 2,000 gold to 25,000 gold. And here's why you would like to have a coin like this, Brian. You want a coin like this because when gold goes to 15,000 or 20,000 in the next decade, where it's naturally going to go percentage-wise, a coin like this is going to give you $300, $400, $500 more per coin. It could be $1,000 more per coin because everything is on a percentage basis. And a mint state 64 St. Gaudens, which is $150 more than the sale we had yesterday per coin, it's going to be much, much more than that. These coins, it's not about all us regular folk trying to get gold and store it away and save our savings. There's a bunch of very wealthy people out there, and they want the best coins, and they'll pay that extra $150 today. I know one of our big guys out there, he's sitting there thinking about this, and I know there's a couple of our customers this is what they buy, and when these specials come up, they just wipe us out. So we had about 75 of these coins coming into the show. The number to call is 800-951-0592. That's 800-951-0592. 0592. To me, the extra $150 to get a coin of this quality is well worth it, and that's because that was the special price yesterday. We $20 Liberties were probably around more like 2100 is more like the regular price. So it's only really about $100, $120 over what a $20 Liberty would be selling day to day if we didn't have a special. Get your coin today. This is Brian. I mean, this is just a great way to do it.
Well, I'm just looking back through my notes. That's $50 less. Today's price, $50 less than the last time. And I didn't see when that was last time that we had these MS64s, but $50 less. And if people are wondering or asking, why do we make such a big deal and refer back to the market of the financial meltdown in 2008? Well, I just happened to watch two shows at the same time. One was Inside Job, more of a documentary, 11 years ago. At the very end of that, the conclusion, it said, nothing has changed. They're still operating the same way. They just are changing the terms. They're just calling things differently than before.
One more segment. Stay with us. I am going to talk about that lumber, that hidden inflation. We'll finish the show off here in a few minutes.
That's right. Final segment, Patriot Radio News Hour. Your fill-in host, Jason and Bryan today. Actually, coming up on a 4th of July holiday weekend, and to my understanding, today is the real Independence Day, the day that the Continental Congress actually voted for independence, but I digress, Jason.
Yeah, July 4th is also the day that Andrew Jackson, in an election year, he was being put a lot of pressure being put on him. They wanted to re-sign an early recharter, because back in those days you had to have a charter for a central bank, and he was fighting against it, and he wanted to get rid of the central bank. And so on a re-election year, 1832, the powers that be, the Congress and the Senate, had enough banker-backed candidates to pass an early recharter, because the charter shouldn't have been rechartered until 1836. And they were afraid that Andrew Jackson was going to succeed in his plan. So let's put pressure on him to sign this thing. It's an election year. He can't take the heat. The Congress passed it. The Senate passed it. They put it on his desk. On July 4th, Andrew Jackson, veto. Take your bank and shove it. And did not have the overriding votes, Brian, to get that bank put back into place.
Well, if only we had, I'd say, informed or not paid for leadership, maybe things wouldn't have gone on this long with central bankers getting such a toehold and everything.
That is right. So, lumber, real quick. There's always a lot to talk about. But lumber was beginning of June was kind of in that $1,300 to $1,400, and the way they measure it is per 1,000-foot board. $1,400 to get a 1,000-foot long board of lumber. That's extreme inflation. But if you're one of the powers that be, how you want to hide inflation, bump the price up on something. Push that price up. Hang on, Brian. Okay, you got it. Push the price up to some ridiculous place, and when everybody starts talking inflation, bam, knock lumber prices down 40% like they did in June. Today, lumber per 1,000-foot board is $741. So in June, it's like, look, it's over. The prices are coming down. It's all over with. Except for, Brian, just like I talked about earlier in the show, back up 12 to 15 months. Where was that 1,000-foot board? What was the price for that? Let's just say April 3rd of 2020, $264. So sitting at $741, Brian, would you consider that an improvement? Just because it spiked to $1,400, does it really matter? March, you're looking at $300 for that board. Now you're looking at $750 for that board, Brian. I would say that's not a good thing for the average person wanting to buy a house, right?
Yeah. Once again, we are the losers in that deal. Follow the bouncing ball, right? Bounces up. Oh yeah, it came back down, but nowhere near to where it started. But keep on pumping the paper currency out there. Keep flooding everybody with that. That's what they're doing.
Today's special, and we may have that. We should have some of these available. I'm guessing on the afternoon. The Fake News Friday coming up here at 3:00. But get yourself a Mint State 64 St. Gaudens right now. Beautiful coin, beautiful condition. Call 800-951-0592. That coin is $2,225. You just don't get them in Mint State 64 every day. Call the number 800-951-0592.